Hello everyone, welcome to Analog IAS Current Affair Analysis for 25th September 2020, and these are the articles we'll be discussing today. The first article for the day is taken from the Indian Express and it is titled "What is the basis of MSP?" So recently the central government introduced major agricultural market reforms. In the month of May, our government has promulgated 3 ordinances, and now that the parliament is in session, they were placed as bills and then converted into acts. So the Essential Commodities Act, the Farmer Produce Trade and Commerce Act, and the Farmers Agreement on Price Assurance and Farm Services Act were passed. So in this context, a lot of farmers from Punjab and Haryana protested because of the contentious bills. It was alleged that the MSP would be sidelined completely. Now there is a reason why farmers were scared of this aspect, because none of this market reforms which were related to agriculture, where MSP is the central aspect of price discovery for farmers, it was not discussed even in a single line or even in a single legislation. There was no mention of MSP at all. Now when the farmers tried to agitate, the government has come up with a statement saying that MSP is here to stay. However, the very next day, the government also said that MSP has no legal basis. Now what do you mean by this? As far as MSP is concerned, it is the least price that is guaranteed for agricultural produce. In a country where we do not have a proper marketing system for agricultural produce, it is very difficult for small and marginal farmers to realize the price for their produce. So 86% of the farmers have a land less than 1 hectare. They are called marginal farmers because of the same reason. Now when there is no support from the government in the form of MSP, how would you expect a farmer to hire a truck when his agricultural produce value worth itself is not more than 25,000 rupees. So that is the reason MSP is the insurance that government gives to the farmer from failure to discover a price for his agricultural produce. The input costs themselves are very high, and if MSP is also not guaranteed, the farmer will be in a very deep trouble. There is every possibility that he will be exploited by the middlemen who would procure this and later sell them at a higher produce. Now the intention of the government is very right. So through this acts, what it tried to do was, it tried to remove this middleman and ensure that farmers get a due share for their agricultural produce. If we allow private players to participate in this trade, they will be in a position to get this price. In yesterday's article, we have detailedly explained about the Essential Commodities Act and its implication on the price discovery, and also what are the advantages for consumer as well as what are the advantages for the farmer. We are also talking about how every participant in the value chain associated with agriculture will benefit from this if implemented properly. However, we also discussed about certain caveats which needs to be addressed in yesterday's article. If you haven't watched it, please go back and watch that article. In today's article, we will be talking about the minimum support price, which has been the bone of contention, because in the absence of this, like we have just discussed, farmers will not be able to get even the decent money that they are getting right now. Now when we are talking about PDS, which is a associated reform with respect to food security in our country, the National Food Security Act ensures that nearly 67% of the population gets subsidized food grains. Now in order to procure this subsidized food grains, the PDS system in India is designed in such a way that Food Corporation of India plays a central role in procuring wheat and rice from the farmers. Even though the minimum support price is announced for nearly 25 crops, in this article it is said that 23 farm commodities are only given MSP. However, one look at the ministry website says that there are 25 crops. So I request you guys to have a look at the ministry documents rather than newspaper article in this context. So when FCI procures this rice and wheat from the farmers, it will then sell to the state governments. Now state governments will buy the same and sell it to the people for 2 or 3 rupees for wheat and rice, as it depends on from state to state. Whatever is in demand in that state, they will sell that as per the norms laid down in the National Food Security Act. So in a way, states and center together are bearing the burden of the subsidy and using FCI as a major medium. The problem with FCI is poor storage facility. So a lot of articles have suggested that nearly more than 50,000 crores worth food grains that are lying in FCI can be actually exported to raise revenue. Instead, they are letting the grains rot in FCI godowns, and it is leading to a loss of nearly 1 lakh crores. And MSP is considered to be a worst case scenario because we are talking about a minimum support price. Now, no farmer would be willing to sell his produce at a minimum cost. But despite this, why are the farmers fighting for minimum support price? Is because of the distorted nature of this marketing ecosystem in our country. Now, the government is doing everything right to address this issue so that the farmers find a better price by including competition. But the fact is, we don't have enough infrastructure and enough private player presence. Till these private players have a ubiquitous presence across the country, immediately lifting out minimum support price is like a disaster for farmers, because we neither have private players, we neither have the government support, and they will be left in a limbo and will be exploited by the middlemen till this infrastructure that was envisioned by the government comes into the picture. So that is the reason why farmers have agitated. Now, what is the mechanism through which MSP is decided? There is a attached office to the Ministry of Agriculture, and it is called Commission for Agricultural Costs and Price. This is a planning commission era body. So this will come up with a scientific formula for calculating MSP in that year. So based on the recommendations of CACP, the Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs will decide whether they want to implement it or not. Mind you, MSP has no legal basis. It is not a right of the farmers. It is just a administrative option taken by the government to ensure farmers do not suffer. So ultimately, even though CACP recommends something, the discretion to accept it or reject it is completely within the hands of the government only. Of course, CACP has recommended that there should be a right to sell. Now, this is a very dangerous proposition for the government, because till now, even though MSP is declared for only 25 crops, to fulfill the objectives of National Food Security Act, government is just procuring 2 or 3 crops. The rest of the crops are not at all procured by the government. However, there is one caveat mentioned in the article about sugarcane. In the case of sugarcane, there is something called fair and remunerative price, which is set by the government. Now, this is a legal right for sugarcane farmers. They can go and demand this money as a matter of right from sugar mill owners. That is the caveat that you have to remember. Even in this case, the government is not paying a single penny. It is directing the sugar mill owners to pay a minimum fair price. So in this way, in our country, government procurement has been the backbone for agricultural reforms, and it has been the main fulcrum of electoral politics. So in the absence of MSP, what will happen is the big question. In an ideal scenario, when a free market economy comes into picture, when the states which generally get some revenue through the market fees that traders pay in agricultural mandis, even when that is removed, and when we have a E-NAM, that is the E-National Agricultural Market, as the basis for procurement, In an ideal setup, a free market economy will raise the revenues of all the stakeholders involved. But will it turn into a reality? It has a lot of moving parts. So, in order to address each and every implementation based issue, a simple law on paper will not be sufficient. We also need certain political will, certain administrative competence, and the necessary infrastructure in place, like for example storage facilities, which is affordable and not out of reach of even the small and marginal farmers. Because as already discussed, 86% of the land as per the agricultural census of 2015-16 is small and marginal farmers land only. So how will these people afford a costly storage? So all these questions should be answered, and then probably we can move away from the MSP regime. Also, MSP has certain negative consequences also, because of the procurement by the government, we have encouraged monocropping. Now what is monocropping? It is a mechanism where farmers plant the same kind of crop year after year, which leads to deterioration of soil. For example, farmers in Punjab and Haryana have continuously resorted to wheat and rice farming for better MSP, for better remunerative price, because it is the least effort involved when trying to market their produce. The government is giving them a guarantee. Now it is not their fault, because they are already troubled. It is the fault of the policy makers that MSP, which should be implemented across all sort of crops, is implemented only for rice and wheat. Again, we cannot blame the government entirely, because if there is demand for say millets, probably the farmer would be willing to produce millets. So this all comes back to behavioral change as well. So agriculture as such, from farm to fork, will involve participation from every stakeholder, from producer to the government to the consumer, and also the middleman. When all these moving parts are falling in place, only then the farmer will have a improvement in his status. That is the gist of this article. The next article for the day is taken from the Hindu, and it is titled Environmentalism at the Core. Now what is this environmentalism? Basically it's a social movement, or you can also term it as an ideology. What is it focused on? It is focused on the welfare of the environment. Environmentalism seeks to protect and conserve the elements of Earth's ecosystem. So it works to correct the damage as well as prevent further destruction. So how does this plan to introduce this element of protection of environment? So when you talk about the issues related to management of natural resources, overpopulation, commercial logging, urbanization, global warming, all these issues which are related to environment come under the domain of this protection of environment. Now after the World War II, there is a phase of prosperity, and during this time the environmental consciousness of Americans especially awakened regarding the effects of environmental destruction. So scholars and environmentalists believe the beginning of the modern environmental movement can be traced back to a book called Silent Spring in 1962, which is written by Rachel Carson. So in this book there is a warning about the use of pesticides in agriculture and the consequences to animal and human life. So there were other books also, like Paul Ehrlich, The Population Bomb, which was released in 1968. And in 1972 we were talking about the concept of limitations to growth, which is the basis for the modern day concept of sustainable development. So in this context, what we are trying to understand here is, when there is a fine balance between environment and economy, we can call that as sustainable development. When that is absent, what we are actually doing is environmental destruction, not economic growth. So we are understanding this balance and the intricacies involved in the times of COVID. So this COVID pandemic is a wake-up call for us to mainstream this idea of green growth. So in this context, the article writer suggests that we have to mainstream and establish links between supply chains and corporate environmental performance. Corporate economic performance should be linked to the outcomes on environment, and when there is a bid of making a country carbon neutral, every possible stakeholder should take responsibility to ensure that this becomes a reality. Now, what is carbon neutral? It is a mechanism where the carbon dioxide released by our economic activities is absorbed back in some way or the other. So, yesterday China has announced that it wants to be a carbon neutral economy by 2060. EU says that it wants to be a carbon neutral economy by 2050. But we don't have that kind of a time. Unless and until we mainstream this idea of green growth across every sector, every stakeholder in the economy, we cannot achieve this objective that was laid down in the Paris deal. That is the gist of this article. So this concept of environmentalism is very important for our essay as well as GS3 conservation topic. That's it for the day. Thank you.